what I do is use the masculine to do the studying and to do the
Yes.
asking of myself, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Okay, how can you achieve that? Now, once I set them is when I call in my feminine, and she's the one who does the
Mhm.
flow. She's the one who does the work.
Introducing The Vixen Voice, a podcast for ambitious women entrepreneurs ready to move into their feminine essence, live their truth, and unlock their full potential. I'm your host, April Roberts, and each week I'll be interviewing inspiring women who decided to take a leap of faith to pursue their dream. Women who believe that they were born for something bigger. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of The Vixen Voice. Today is going to be a fun, entertaining, I believe, and also enlightening episode. I have my very good friend and sister in healing, Deanne Saravia, here with me today, and we are going to talk about how she is a sixth generational healer and has been healing for over 15 years. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. I didn't really have her on because of her healing practice, because obviously I know a ton of healers, although Deanne is amazing, so you should check her out for that. What I love about Deanne is she's such a heart-centered, warm person. As I said, she's part of my healing family, so we're very close. But I was actually coaching some members of our healing family in a group setting for a bit, and I had them set goals because I don't know if you've dealt in the spiritual community before, but a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs have challenges setting and hitting goals, right? In fact, here's another secret. I find that with most of my female entrepreneur clients. So, Deanne not only is an amazing healer, but she totally nailed setting her goals, nailed hitting her goals, and propelled her healing business forward in just 90 days. So, today we're going to talk about that. So, welcome, Deanne.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate this.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to dig in. So, first of all, I'd love if you'd start by just telling us a little bit more about you. So, I always like to ask, what's a pivotal story or two that really you feel made you the woman we see sitting here before us? However, I know in your 15-year healing journey, there has probably been a ton of pivots. So, does anything stick out to you? Like, really, what kind of brought you here where you're doing full time healing, you're really following your heart's desire and just like living your best life?
So I would say I didn't understand all these gifts that I had and being an empath. And I thought it was me that had all these emotions of everybody else. And not until I was in a situation where it was kind of like an awakening, where life was great, it was going the way it was going. And then all of a sudden, I literally felt a light switch. I woke up and everything just saw everything, felt everything different. And I had no choice but to try to figure out, like, what is happening? Like, I know
Hmm.
things, and I knew even emotions, okay, those weren't mine. And so I had to kind of dig in and figure out. And this was back in the 90s where there wasn't a ton of people to help you to figure this stuff out. So I would say that was the first huge awakening that I had to, even friends, life totally was changing and I had to figure out what was going on. And I've had the history of all my aunts that were healers, but I
Hmm.
didn't know that that's what they would go through in order to awaken into their gifts. So here I am, like, what's happening?
So, I heard all my aunts. Does that mean your mom was not a healer or she didn't practice healing?
My mother, from the story she's told me, is that she had clear sight
Hmm.
and she saw a few things that were accidents or just things that were disturbing to her. So she decided to
Yeah.
shut it down. So it was my father's side who all his sisters and mother, grandmother, all were the ones who I went to for answers.
I love it. So you did have people to go to, because this is really important, because I know we have women listening from all walks of life, and you may not be a healer. So I had some interesting stuff coming to me that we'll talk about the healing journey. So you may not be a healer, but we all go through these phases in our life where we're trying to figure out what's going on, right? And there's this balance of like who to share that with, who's our support system, and going deep within ourselves and with God or the higher power you believe in to find the answers. So, what was your journey at that time? Was it really depending on your aunts, depending on yourself? Did you find another community? Like, what helped you through the beginning transition?
I didn't know how to approach my aunts with what was going on because I didn't even
Yeah.
quite understand it. And I will be honest, God stepped in without me knowing and kind of
Mm-hmm.
veered me to a community. I started going to like psychic fairs. I was super interested, like dove headfirst, had friends that were huge, big name psychics and would hang out with them. And again, wasn't saying anything, but I was taking pieces of what I was learning from
Mm-hmm.
them to try to figure out what was going on with me. And again, I didn't even know, but I was allowing flow. And so I think that was a big thing for me as a young adult was just being naive enough to let flow take me where I needed to be and where I needed to go and trusting it, really trusting it.
I love that you say that, because a lot of times I look at my 18-year-old self and I was like, oh my gosh, she was so courageous and just knew where she needed to be, right? And then life happens and like, you should do this and you have this role and you have this responsibility. And I feel like it just like takes us off this course that we innately know. I think, to different levels people know it when they're younger, right? But I do think that a lot of times I look at my younger self, I'm like, oh my gosh, she was so much more wise. Like I had to relearn all of that stuff, right? Did you feel you had to go through that? Or did you feel it was more
Um,
this period where you awakened?
I would say at a very young age, I never allowed anybody's expectations to be put on me. And I didn't do it obviously consciously. Again,
Right.
going through life, and I didn't like to be told what to do, and,
I can relate.
and people expect this and this from you. And you're like, no, I pay my own bills. I take care of myself. Nobody helps. I need to, figure this out. I need to do this for myself. What makes me happy? You know,
Mm-hmm.
does this or does that? Well, you need to get, a job that's making this much money. But that didn't make me happy. I did later fall into the pressures, but
Mm-hmm.
but in my 20s and 30s, I was free balling. I was just like flow, very flow, just wherever life took me. And it was a blast.
I love it. I love it. I know. I wanted to take off in between college and law school. Not that it's a huge thing, but back then, if you took time off, you like had to get off everything of your parents, right? Now you stay on their health care till you're 26, etc. Back then, if you weren't in college, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so complicated. And like, so often I wish I had taken that 1 year to 2 years to just like go explore, even though that wasn't that much. I mean, what happened for me was I didn't do it and I took all the steps I should take, right? And then at 27, I got married and uprooted everything and moved to Italy. So, like, it just came later for me. But I always think about that time and it's so interesting. I love that culture's changing and I think we're changing because the newer generations are forcing us to. But I do feel like there's more freedom today. I talk all the time. I just talked about this with my sister and my friends, like who have kids. Like, do you want your kids to go to college? Because if I had kids, I'd be like, unless you want to be like a doctor or scientist or something required, like go like work with somebody that you're fascinated in what they do and get their coffee and like learn as much as you can, right? And that's just my way of thinking, but that's kind of what you did with your freeballing it, right? You're like, oh, I'm interested in this, let me go over here and let me figure this out and let me go do this. So You're talking about in the 90s, you had this awakening, but I think it was about 15 years ago or a little later that you actually started healing, right? So, what was that journey in between?
The journey in between, it was hard because I had friends who, did not understand what I was going through. And I didn't have
Hmm.
the words to explain
Yeah.
that I just wasn't that same person anymore. So,
Mm-hmm.
of course, there was family members, there was really good friends, there was even my own, before the healing community, my own little community of girlfriends and boyfriends that we all did everything together. You know, that was that was harder for them than it was for me because I didn't know what was going on. But at the same time, I just knew that almost disgusted me to participate in that old
Mm-hmm.
life. Like,
Yeah.
I just knew automatically that it's not for me. It was almost physical,
I
Nope,
get it.
nope. It was looking back at it. When you're in it, you're just not, you're just, like I said, going. But looking back, you're like, okay, that was interesting. That was different.
So, when you say it was physical, where did you feel it?
All of me was like, it was almost like no. I didn't hear no, I didn't see no, but I felt no. And it wasn't like, hey, let's do this and that. And I was like, you know, oh, do I want to? Do I want? It was just like, no, thank you. It just came like I was so in flow at that time. It would just come
Yeah.
out, no, thank you. You know, even when they would approach me and we're in the same place, I was very like, I'm doing my own thing and would walk off.
Yeah. No, I love that. I call it visceral. I'm like, I just had a visceral reaction. And like you said, it is physical. For me, it happens in my solar plexus. Like that's where I feel it, and we're all different. So, I mean, it was strong for you if you felt it all over your body. But I love this because if you're listening and you've ever done one of my webinars or challenges, we always start by like breath work, getting grounded and feeling our bodies, right? Because there's so much wisdom in our body. I mean, and ultimately we want to get to our heart center. For me, that's the ultimate, and living from there. But I love that you're talking about you just like knew. And then how, and was it because you were in flow that it came out so graceful when you would say no thank you? Because when I first started getting these things, I had a hard time because it wasn't like I got triggered, but I was like having to figure out how to communicate in a graceful, like, compassionate, loving way, right? Because I feel like sometimes people push back. I mean, my mom's the number one person. She'll push, push, push. And it's like, Mom, I've told you no 10 times. Like, I like, no, thank you's not working here. So, did it just work for you, or did you work on
I
yourself to
it
be able to do that?
no, it I think it worked on me because people that I had in my life I had known for a very long time. So they knew
Yep.
who who I was, and I was somebody who I said what I said. You know what I mean? I wasn't anybody that can you can change my mind, you can, let's they want people to sit down and talk about it. I at that time was in the workings of healing where I was very calm and I would say it calmly
Mm-hmm.
no. And I think by my demeanor they knew I wasn't messing around, but I
Yeah.
wasn't aggressive about it. And they,
Mm-hmm.
I think, to be honest with you, my energy kind of calmed them not to be aggressive with me, where they took no seriously, and they just went on their merry
Yeah.
way. It was hard for them as far as they kept coming back, but I kept standing my ground like, no, no, thank you, no, thank you. Even till this day, it's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Well, and it's standing in your dignity, which, as you and I both know, is really important for women to do spiritually. And I think, it's not how we're trained or socialized to be in today's world. And so it was really interesting. I don't remember what happened for me, but I was going through, getting healings. I think it was before I started practicing healing, but maybe it was at the beginning of practicing. And then suddenly one day I was just like, no, I've had enough. And like, I was like standing in my dignity like all the time telling people no. And yeah, people reacted well to it. Like, I remember, I mean, it was like, I don't know, there was something with my apartment and rent, and they didn't do something. And I wrote this email like, hi, for the amount of rent that I pay, one would expect, like, but I mean, it was like a graceful, nice. And like the next day, I thought the lady would be like annoyed with me. She was nice as pie to me. Like, it was just crazy, but just like, saying no gracefully, but standing in your dignity and not getting pushed around is really, really important. And when you do that, things just work out. I mean, I'm sure you're practicing this too, because I know we both operate similarly, but for me it's just surrendering every day and just taking the day as it comes and each day. And it's like, it's amazing how beautiful life gets. And I think that's what you're talking about when you talk about being in the flow. But share with us, if the audience is listening, and if there's someone listening who's not used to talking about things in this way, what do you mean by the flow? Can you describe it?
I did not use my brain. I allowed
Yep.
God, at the time I didn't know it was him. At the time I thought it
Mm-hmm.
was just the universe to
Mm-hmm.
move me. Even my words, like I said, friends changed, and it wasn't hard for me that my friends disappeared because then some wonderful woman came into my life who was a strong psychic, who she's the one who introduced me to the bigger psychics, the big names. And we spent so much time together, even if it was on the phone, honing my skills, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
just, and then I'll be honest with you, all of a sudden I found myself at a psychic bookstore, finding books. Again, this is something I would have never imagined myself doing of who I was before this. Opening
Mm-hmm.
books and reading books on different things and then bringing them home and practicing them, and at the time I was a single mother. So she's out, my daughter's out playing and I'm in my room practicing, reading this book and doing what it's saying about tapping into this energy and doing that. And it was very interesting in that, like I said, in that time of life, because consciously I did not know that I was moving in flow. But now that I look back and I see my child is 30 years old now. So when I see the 30 years of us together and I see me raising her as a single mother, I was definitely in flow through the whole process, and it just got
Mm-hmm.
deeper once I hit the late 20s to where it really was moving me where I needed to go. Because I think I was off my track in my early 20s. I was obviously I
Mm-hmm.
was doing what I was meant to do as far as living the life I was meant to live because there was lessons in that first 6 years in my 20s that now I can bring into my healing practice. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't suffer what I did in my early 20s.
Yeah, I love that. So this keeps coming back to me to talk about. So what's interesting is I'm doing a panel episode with a therapist, a coach, and then unfortunately the healer who was joining us has COVID, so she can't join us. So I guess I'll be talking about consulting and healing, but we're kind of talking about like how you really can use all of us, right? Like, so there's this weird thing going on with therapy and coaching where, it's not competitive. Like if someone needs us, they need us. And so it's so funny because to me, so I have a mentor, well, Brendan Bouchard. I'm licensed under him for coaching, and he talks about becoming a coach makes you a better person, and that's 100% true because you become more compassionate and empathetic. But when I started training to become a healer, like that super escalates that, right? And I think a lot of it is what you're talking about. Like we have to go through change and evolution so quickly, like it really throws us off our foundation of what we thought we knew, that we've basically had these experiences that people are coming to us wanting help with, right? And so
Yes.
there's zero judgment, there's zero, it's just like meeting our clients where they are, being compassionate, being unconditional love, and really trying to help. And I just think it's interesting, and I'm sharing this because if you're thinking, should I talk to a healer? If you have that thought, you probably should. Would you agree with that, Deanne? Go
Absolutely.
for it.
When that enters your mind, because that's not something, if don't get me wrong, if you were raised where you can't, you were shown healers, your parents dragged you to healers and
Right.
all that, then I get why you might second guess on should I get a healer because that's what my parents taught me and that's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
That's rare. But if you're somebody who's just an average, you're a normal person who lives their life, who does see a doctor, a real MD, and does see, a therapist, a real therapist whose degrees and all that,
Mm-hmm.
and it pops in your mind, somebody talks about a healing or somebody talks about energy work or somebody, it's absolutely a message. It is your intuition telling you, I need to see this. And obviously you resonated with that person or those words, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
is telling you you should go. And the experience is
Yeah,
always amazing.
yeah, I saw or read, it might have been a meme, but it was so true. It said, like, the truth just vibrates differently. Like, it's a different frequency. And I love that because how many times do people ask you, like, how do you know that? Well, I just know it, right? Like, it just rings
Right.
true to me. There are these sayings, it rings true to me. Like, there was a lot of wisdom that has been lost about how things actually work and, like, how magical the world and we as human beings really are. That, the proof is in the pudding if you think about the things we say. So we always say it rings true, but then people are like, huh, the truth has a vibration? Yes, the truth
Oh,
has a
yes.
vibration.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
I love it. And we're not talking necessarily about factual truth. We're talking about the way things are, right? There's a difference. Like,
Correct.
what were you
Yeah,
going to
the
say?
actual truth
I'm
is
curious.
the actual truth, but everything has a vibration. Words have vibrations,
Mm-hmm.
plants have vibrations.
Yes.
Things, actions you do have vibrations. You can do something, and if somebody's reaction is that vibration. And you don't even really need to understand vibrations, because sometimes I'll talk to somebody, I was out this weekend and they said, oh, I love to drink, this and that. Let's go get a drink. Do you drink? And I was like, well, I mean, I can, but I just choose not to. I've worked really hard to raise my vibration. We all know alcohol brings down your
Mm-hmm.
vibration. I choose
Right.
not to drink. So, and this person never really understood about vibrations, but understood what I was saying as far as obviously feeling one way and then alcohol affecting that feeling. And that's not something for me.
Mm-hmm. Hi, sorry for the interruption. This is April Roberts, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew about the Vixen Founders Collective. What in the world is it? It is our community where we bring together Gen X female founders, and my goal is to create the ultimate business consulting, networking, and personal growth community for Gen X female founders. So if you're wanting to know more, just click on the link below because we're having a lot of fun in there. We are growing our businesses and we are becoming better women. So I'd love to have you join us anytime. Click the link below to learn more, and I'll see you inside the collective. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I love that we're able to have these conversations and people get it on some level, even if they don't understand. Because I mean, I don't understand about vibrations. I have people ask me all the time. I was just with a friend of mine. It's so funny because we go to the same healing coach and he was like, well, how do you know that? He kept asking me, well, how do you know that? And I was like, I just know. I don't want to explain this to you, right? And I'm like, you've been doing this he's been going to him since 2012. I started in 2019. I'm like, we get healed by the same person. How are you still so up here in your head, right? But I mean, he's one of
Right.
my best friends, so we can have this conversation. Normally, I'm just like, oh, like having an open conversation with someone. But I find it so funny. It cracks me up when people are like, but how do you know that? And I'm like, I just know. And I had another friend he's like, your faith is so strong, but I know you don't read the Bible. I said, well, I'll read quotes and things brought to me, but no, I'm not like opening the Bible and reading it. It's just not part of what I do. I'll do journaling and stuff where it has a Bible quote and I'll think about it. And he goes, well, how do you know what to do? Your faith's so deep. And I was like, oh, that's simple. I just ask God. And he was like, huh? And I was like, and I'm not saying either is wrong. Like he goes to the
Right.
Bible and he gets his understanding that way. I don't feel I need to. I mean, all day long, I literally will be like, God, should I do this? God, should I do that? And like, it's really just become a part of my being. And I don't think I've really said that out loud before. I mean, I talk about it, but that's really how I operate all day long. And that's when I say surrender. I mean, I don't have to ask on everything. You know what I'm talking about. But sometimes there's that crossroads, and it's like, okay, which way am I supposed to go here?
Right.
And it can be a small thing, but with a big impact.
Right. See, and for me, when someone asks me something that's a big decision, my come to is I need to meditate on that because that's when
Yes.
I can quiet down and I can hear the answers. And sometimes they don't come right away. Sometimes I meditate, I don't get anything, I go to sleep, and then I wake up with a clear answer. Like, and
Yep.
it's really awesome because it's so absolute. There's no way your brain could have done that. It is, in fact, flow. It is, in fact, God giving you the answer, especially when you reached out to Him and said, okay, I'm listening. You know, this is my question. Where do I go? What do I do? You hear nothing. It's okay because you will get an answer.
Yeah. And like you said, it's going to be clear. If it's confused, it's either your ego getting in the way or some other dark energy or lower vibrational energy, right? If it's not clear, it's not the answer. So be patient and wait until you have a clear answer. So I totally agree with you. Well, I can have this conversation with you all day long. I'm super excited. I'll get to see you at the end of this month, by the way, in California. But I do want to talk about goal setting. So another time, I'd love to have a group of us healers on here, and we will go deep about our journeys and, what brought us to get healings, what brought us to become healers, etc. I'd love to have that conversation. But I love that you've talked about flow so much today because, as you know, this was the main reason I wanted to have you on the Vixen Voice because we had a group of our healing family, and I was kind of business coaching, or we would come together and share, really is more what it was. But I did encourage everyone to set 90-day goals because I believe in like quarterly goals. And then, each time we met, we would report like how they were progressing. And you were so clear about your goals. You were the clearest. And then you hit every darn one ahead of time. So the reason I want to talk to you is you keep talking about flow, and I feel I see so many female entrepreneurs struggle to set goals and hit goals. And it may not just be women, but I only work with women. But for women, I think it's because a lot of time they go mental or they go masculine when setting and hitting goals. And really, we do burn out in our masculine energy. So then we don't reach the finish line. And I do think we need our masculine and feminine balanced, but you're doing this and you're staying in the flow, you're staying in your feminine energy. So what's your secret? What's the magic? Let us know.
Well, okay. So what I do is use the masculine to do the studying and to do the
Yes.
asking of myself, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Okay, how can you achieve that? And it's a lot of thinking in the beginning. Okay. It
Mm-hmm.
isn't, I woke up and said, okay, these are my three goals. I'm not going to make a goal that I'm going to totally miss the mark. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
just not what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to push. I'm going to see, oh, I think I could do that. Then I'm going to make it a little bigger because if it's not big, then why do it? You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
so I use my masculine in the beginning to do the studying, to do what I'm trying to achieve. Okay, how can I get it?
Yep.
And then I write it down and I play with it back and forth. Now, once I set them is when I call in my feminine. And she's the one who does the
Mm-hmm.
flow. She's the one who does the work. She's the one. So when I set my goals, I let her control because masculines, for me, my masculine's a little meaner than my feminine. My feminine's very soft and very understanding. I mean, you and me had a conversation about what was going on with the website, and you're like, Deanne, you need to do this and this. I didn't want to call in my masculine because I didn't want it to go too far. And my feminine's like, it'll
Yeah.
work itself out. It'll work itself out. It's okay. But I pay attention to my intuition. If my gut says, call him in,
Mm-hmm.
call that, that masculine part of you, then I will. But it's kind of like,
Yeah.
I trust her to do it because she does a better job. So that's what I did
Yeah.
is I set the goals on a masculine side, then I tap into her.
And I like your awareness of this. I know you're very in touch because your masculine is a little snarky. I saw it when we were having those conversations. I mean, not toward me, but I was like, wow, Deanne can be like, because I mean, of course, I've never seen that side of you, but we were, I was helping you with something in business, so it kind of came out, and it's interesting. But I agree, we need it for certain things. I call it our GSD energy. The PG version would be get stuff done. Like
Yes.
when sometimes there's a deadline, there's urgency, like we just need to. So yeah, I agree, it's the masculine energy setting, and then you got to let it flow. And that's what I tell my clients in my mastermind. We set our quarterly goals, and then we have accountability calls each week. And it's like, they were all like, oh well, I'm not gonna hit them now. I'm like, you got 4 more weeks, 3 more weeks. You don't know what's going to happen. You just keep doing the work and putting it out there. Like, and sure enough, one of them, like, clients fell in her lap, right? And like, she's coming darn close to like hitting that goal. She'll be slightly off, but so much closer than if she just threw up her hands in the air and said, oh, this isn't going to happen, which I feel is the masculine. Well, it's definitely your ego coming in. It's your ego coming in
Yes.
saying this isn't going to happen because it's trying to keep you in the safe place, right? And in the known,
Yes.
instead of imagining like you really have no idea what's going to happen. But no, for me, I love it. When I
It's
was looking for this townhome I live in, I was out and about, looking at townhomes. I picked up like 3 clients that day. I wasn't doing work. I wasn't doing anything masculine. It was just like flowing and being. And I was like, it was an important reminder to me, like, oh yeah, you're supposed to be doing this too. Because having a new business, I was in the masculine too much when I was not healing, right? And it reminded me to get back, and then everything just started increasing. When I had my first business, I just listened to my intuition, and every year my business doubled. And then someone taught me how to do business, like, KPIs, goal setting, etc. And I struggled because I didn't get this balance of using the masculine to set and then going back to the intuition and the feminine to solve, right? And so I don't know. I love this conversation because so many people struggle with goal setting, and like, just hang in there. Like, you'll find your balance, you'll find your flow. Don't you agree with that?
yes, it's the matter of trusting. Trusting and giving it up to whatever it is, your higher power. Just it's huge trust. Like yeah, you just got to
Yeah.
trust. Just go with it, flow with
Yeah.
it. Leave control. Stop thinking with your head, think with your heart. Let your intuition guide you. He does come in and he does guide you where you're supposed to be. Doesn't matter if you went off track.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to put you back.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you're on purpose. I like to call it on fire with purpose. I feel like when when you're on purpose, like, things that would be mountains are just bumps in the road. It's not a big deal because like where you're going. And so the obstacles become less important. So I love that. All right, Dan, I'm going to ask, what are your goals for this 90 days? I know you reset goals, so do you have them?
I'm just trying right now to grow the business. I have a lot of
Yep.
repeat clients, and so I'm trying to bring in never before seen clients, I would say, new clients
Mm-hmm.
that may be either new to healing or new to me on the way I do things because I do things differently. Not differently than what I was taught, but the people that I speak to and I work with, even other healers, obviously didn't study with us, but I have a lot of other healing friends. Even they will say, like, I've never heard of that, So that is where I want
Mm-hmm.
to reach out and try to find the right words for them to understand that what I do will change your life. Like, it's amazing the people that I have worked with, how things have changed for them.
Oh, 100%. I agree. It's so beautiful. It's indescribably beautiful. I know someone asked me the other day, like, after you do healings, are you tired? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. I'm like on cloud nine. I'm like running around like the Energizer Bunny. It's so crazy. And not just that, I feel my posture better. I feel more grounded. I feel like solid. Like it's amazing. But as you and I know, we're just the vessels, right?
Correct. 100%.
And so we're getting work as we do the work. Because I mean, like I'm not doing anything. God's doing everything and all of his
Right.
like army. I mean,
And
right?
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree 100%. And also when people ask the same thing, like, are you tired? And no, it's because I'm not using my energy. I am clearly allowing him to work
Yes.
through me. And that's why I'm not tired because I have worked with other healers where they were wiped out after an event. Like, I need to take a nap. And I'm like, okay. And of course, in my head, I was like, in
Yeah.
the beginning, because I didn't know any better, I would think to myself, okay, something's wrong. Like, what didn't you do to get yourself ready? But now that I've worked long enough in here, it's not that. It's you're using your own energy when you don't have to. Just allow flow to come through. Even if you don't
Yeah.
believe in God, you believe in the universe, allow it to come through you and work through you is why we don't get tired.
Yeah. I had gotten certified in another healing modality, really just on my healing path. Like I didn't intend to practice, but I was learning it for my own healing. And we would have 3-day workshops and I would have to go take a nap. Thank goodness I was like very close to the woman whose house it was at. And I would go nap every time. And like, I never nap when we're doing our healing work together anymore because like now I understand, but I love it. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I could talk to you forever. So, Deanne, real quickly, I'd love to ask you. I know this is often for you, but when do you feel outside of your healing work, maybe that you're at your most feminine? Like, when is your energy really flowing?
When is my energy really flowing? I try to stay, I try to use her all day. Like when I get up, right away, start saying, please, God,
Mm-hmm.
come through me, flow through me, allow me to, I'm allowing you to
Mm-hmm.
work through me and go through my day. Some of my days are very steady and slow. And so I'll call on him, but not as far as if I have something to do, then me and him are having a conversation. And I'm like, I need you to work through me, for my words to connect to people, for my actions, stories to match. I really, really trust him when I'm with somebody, when I'm doing the work, when I'm out with friends, I call on him. I trust him
Yeah.
because I want to stay kind. I don't want my masculine to ever
Mm-hmm.
strike out because it's angry because I've kind of shut him down a little bit. So, and
Yeah.
she's very nice. She's very soft. She's very loving. She wants to give, and it does surprise me sometimes. Don't get me wrong. It does surprise me because that's not who I was many years ago. But I really enjoy this journey and this
Mm-hmm.
person that I'm with right now.
Oh, I love it. So, if you had to put a color to it, what color would your feminine energy be?
It would be a light purple, a lavender, like an Easter purple. That's what color it would be.
Like my
A little
shirt?
lighter, a little sheerer than that, softer.
I like it. Oh, beautiful. Love it. Awesome. So, final question for you. I like to always say the world needs more love, and I like to challenge our listeners. How can they show up in more love today? What final message would you like to give to all the women listening to us?
Forgive. It's not up to them. It's up to you to let go. You don't have to stay friends. You don't have to stay in communication, but to send forgiveness to yourself, love yourself, grace, allow grace. It's huge. It takes you very far when you just send forgiveness. Um, a memory pops up even of a past person. Send forgiveness, send them love, forgive yourself for whatever you may or may not have did. You don't even have to figure it out.
Mhm.
Just keep sending it.
I love that. Yeah, that's an incredibly important practice. And also, season 4 of The Chosen talks about asking for forgiveness, and I think that's so important too. Like, you may not get it, but ask for forgiveness. Say you're sorry, like, and grant other people forgiveness. So, Deanne, today was so fun and magical and lovely. Thank you for joining me. If you want to find out more about Deanne and the work she does, check out our show notes. If you have not subscribed to the Vixen Voice, go to vixengathering.com, click on the podcast page, and subscribe. That way, all of these amazing resources are delivered directly to your inbox. But in the meantime, all of Deanne's information's there. Follow her on social media, connect with her. If you're feeling called to do a healing, chat with her about that. Maybe you just want to follow her and see the amazing things she's doing. Be sure to connect with her. And Deanne, thank you so much for your time today and being the beautiful, amazing person you are. Everybody else, I will talk to you soon, and thank you all for being the beautiful, amazing women that you are. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe so future episodes are automatically downloaded directly to your device. And if you want access to today's show notes, including links to all the resources we mentioned, visit vixengathering.com/podcast. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of The Vixen Voice.